Okay, guys at the back, do we want to get started? Hello? No? All right. So, like I said earlier, it's kind of a hard act to follow, gaming. So hopefully money will keep your attention, at least for a few more minutes, and then I think we have some burgers and so on, so we'll see. So the next session is, I've been talking about create.msdn.com, that's App Hub, and so this session is sort of really kind of about that, right? It's about how you monetize your Windows Phone application, and so we'll talk about a number of different applications. We'll talk about the marketplace, talk about submitting an application and what that means. We'll talk about advertising supported applications. There's also something called the marketplace testing tool, which is available in Visual Studio. And then we'll talk about some best practices and tips around how to optimize your sales, how to make more money. A question already? It's just the content slide.
I'm missing something about the size of the marketplace.
So the question was, what about the size of the marketplace? I was actually going to talk about that this morning in my first session. The secret is that even though I went about 20 minutes over, I had about 10 more slides, and we just skipped them. Currently, we're at about 40,000 apps. It's actually a little bit more than that. 40,000 apps, I think over 50,000 developers, and I don't know how many million downloads of the SDK at this point. So lots of good stuff going on there.
How many devices are in active use?
Okay. So the question was more around how big is the marketplace of Windows Phone devices in market? And those are numbers that we haven't announced. So it's not something I have available. I can tell you that the latest stuff that's going on with Nokia looks very, very promising. So, for instance, in the UK, we're seeing. I think they've announced that they actually sold out of devices in the UK, and that's not a low volume. They're actually having to, I think, step up their production quantities, which is a very good sign. Yeah, we're very pleased, and I'm sure they are too. So yeah, the other thing I can tell you is that some of the analysts have been doing production, and based on the combination of Microsoft and Nokia partnership, both IDC and Gartner, I don't know, do you guys see IDC and Gartner here? So both of them are predicting that by 2015, Microsoft and Windows Phone will be this number 2 in terms of volume around devices around the world, ahead of iOS, ahead of Apple, and just behind Android. So yes, it's a good thing, and Nokia and Microsoft are having some fun. So party hardy. Any other questions on the content slide, on the agenda? Okay, so let's talk about the marketplace. As a consumer, from a consumer perspective, the marketplace is really the only place where you can get executable content onto a phone. Now, as a developer, that's not quite true, because as a developer, you can, as I mentioned earlier, you can register your phone or unlock your phone and sideload applications. But that's not something we encourage end users to do. It's not something we expect end users to do. It's really something that a developer or a hobbyist might want to do. So developers can write applications and deploy to their own devices. When you do that as a developer, when you register in App Hub, you can unlock up to 3 devices. If you need more, you can request more, but by default it's 3 devices, and students can use 1 device. You can join the marketplace. Can you guess where that is? Right? Create.msdn.com. You probably heard me say that once or twice. The membership is about $99 a year. I think we may have some tokens tomorrow. Martin talked about doing that for the folks that are going to join us for the coding day tomorrow, the lab day tomorrow. You'll be able to join and get that token to join. Students can register for free already via DreamSpark. And once you have registered to App Hub, you can then submit your applications and submit them so that they can get certified. And then once they're certified, you can then they then obviously show up in the marketplace catalog for consumers to download and pay for, and so on. When you do submit your application for marketplace, we do actually do a verification of your identity, because we want to know who you are, and we want to know that the applications that you're submitting are of high quality and you're not going to be doing any bad stuff. And so there is a validation process that happens when you join. And so again, joining create.msdn.com. And later on, towards the end of the session, if we have time, and I think we will, I'll just give you a tour through the App Hub. Yes? Oh, the validation. So the question, what? So how long does it take to submit, or how long does it take to register? So how long does it take to register as a developer? I've heard it varies. For a while, it was taking a little longer, but I think now it's about a week. When you register, you get validation. I think they try to do it much faster than that. Is someone? So there is some issues around certain countries that are having certain issues with credit cards, and pardon me, like Denmark, and that is a bug that it's an issue that we're addressing, and that'll get fixed. And one of the ways we're going to fix it is by helping you with tokens and so on. But yeah, it's something that was introduced in the latest update of the marketplace that had some unfortunate and unforeseen consequences. So the first thing is the registration. I'll come to you. And then the second thing is when you submit an application for certification, I think the service level agreement is that we'll do it within 5 days. Your application will make it into marketplace. What we're finding is that it's closer to 3 days. So you'll see your application will go through. Sometimes if the application is very simple, it may go through very quickly, but on average it's about 3. Maximum on the outside you'll see is about 5. So if you are planning marketing and all that good stuff, you should plan for 2 weeks, right? Because you actually may submit to the marketplace, fail certification, have to make changes and resubmit. I know as developers you like to code right to the last minute, but if you have marketing deadlines and so on where the app has to be in marketplace, give yourself at least 2 weeks to go through the whole process and expect to fail, especially if you're submitting for the first time. Lots of stuff you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, so give yourself lots of time. Sorry, go ahead. Actually, I think there's a question here, and then I'll come back.
Question, why should you ensure the whole thing of registering and validating just to develop a HTML5 application? As you said this morning.
You could develop a what application?
HTML5.
Ah, okay. So the question was sort of an interesting one. So why should you go ahead and develop and register and have to go through all of that and pay when you could just be developing an HTML5 application? And there's really 2 things that HTML5 won't give you. One is discoverability. People will have to come to your website and know that there is an HTML5 application there that they have to run. And second is monetization. How do you get people to pay you for that HTML5 application? Unless you're doing ads and so on. But those are 2 important things, especially if, as a business, it's kind of important. So HTML5, it's a great thing, but it's not at the same level, certainly on the mobile side, it's not at the same level yet as native applications. I think there was a question here. Yes?
What would the typical reasons for an application to fail be?
So the question is, what would the typical reason for an application to fail be? And there is no typical reason. It could be any one of hundreds of different things. We actually have a certification document that lists every single certification test that we're going to submit your application to. It could be any one of those, right? And I think it's like 25 or 30 pages at this point of different things. It could be policy. It could be things like tombstoning's not working. It could be you forgot to have a splash screen. It could be any one of a number of different things. You could be too much memory, right? If you're going over a memory, it could be taking you too long to load, right? You have to load within, I think it's 8 seconds. And so, there's all sorts of certification requirements, and we're pretty stringent on those because, again, we try to optimize around user experience. I think I've mentioned this once or twice. And so we have a quality bar that we've set in terms of what we expect applications to do when they're in the marketplace.
So there will be a kind of line-by-line code validation evaluation?
So the question is, does that mean there's a line-by-line code evaluation? And no, we don't actually look at your source code, and we don't decompile your code, we don't look at code, but we do run the applications. Yeah. I think there was a question in the corner here. No? Okay, let's keep going. So payment. Payment is a good thing. Most people like to get paid. Developer can pretty much set any price they want for their application. There are certain pricing tiers when you set them. The lowest one is 99 cents, and the highest one, actually I can't remember what it is, I think it's $499.99. Oh, and of course, there is a lower one than 99 cents, which is free. You can set your application for free. And we'll also, their other one would be set it for free and have ads in your application. So you have many different options to do that. If you do ask for money, if you ask for your app to be a paid app, then you will keep 70% of that price, whatever price was paid for the application. Once you start getting paid, we will issue you a check or send you a payment once you reach the 200, so every $200 or so. So if it's a small app and you're not getting too many downloads, it may take you a while to get that, but for most people that's not really a problem. You usually get a check once a month. Yes?
What happens if you're making a business-to-business deal where application for the Windows client is part of it, but they can download that for free and then you charge them for the service and the backend that they're using? How is that addressed?
I'm not sure I understand this scenario.
So let's say that you're a company
Yep.
where you get free phones,
Yep.
and then you can download my app for free, but then you have to access my server using this and have to pay for that service.
Yeah, sure. So the question is, what if I have a paid service, web service, that an end user may have to subscribe to, but the actual application on the marketplace is free? And that's obviously, if your application is free, you get to keep 100% of that revenue. There's a little delay in the laugh there. I guess it's late in the day. Yes?
What if the actual payment for the service, like he mentioned,
Yes.
is in the application? Apple has a lot of issues
Yeah.
regarding that.
Yeah, so, and we do as well if it's a game. So if you're doing in-app purchase, this is not something that we allow in games. If it's an in-app purchase in a application, just a regular application that's not a game, it should be fine.
Do you still take 30%?
No, well, because you wouldn't be using our service for that. You'd be using some third party, Facebook credits or PayPal or what have you. Yeah. I think there was a question here. No? Then I think there's one in the corner. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Yeah, okay, so the question is there a restriction on the number of free apps that you can submit? There isn't. There used to be a restriction on the number of free apps that you submitted that were free with the $99, and it used to be 5. I think we've now upped it to 100, and then once you go over 100, then we would charge you $20 per submission. And it's not number of free apps, it's number of submissions, right? So if you submit an app and you fail certification, that's a submission, and then you submit again, that's another submission. And so there's definitely an incentive to not fail. Yeah, to submit quality code. Yes?
For free apps, if you have a advertising network available to developers, sort of like I have.
So the question is, for free apps, is there a advertising network? And yes, there is. In fact, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. So if you can stay tuned, we're going to talk about that. Yes? I knew that once I brought the payment slide up that we'd get a lot of questions.
An update, is that a submission?
So the question is, if I submit an update, is that a submission? And yes, it is. If you submit an update, it's a submission. If you update a lot, if you submit a lot of updates, those are a lot of submissions. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, every submission is considered a free app. So yeah. Yes?
Is that number ever zero again? Is it per year?
It's per year, yes. So the question is that 100 lifetime? No, it's 100 free apps for that $99 that you pay per year. And so at the end of the year, you can start doing more submissions. Any other questions? Yes?
You have in-house applications like you have Monetizing, where you target the application on for a company.
Sure. So the question was, can I do a submission of an app that would only be available within an organization or an enterprise? Not really. There is 3 different app types that you can submit for. You can submit a regular public app where you publish to the marketplace and is available publicly. You can submit a beta app, which would be available, does not go through certification and is free and so on for anyone who downloads it. There's an access control list that you maintain. It's a limited number of people. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, I think. And then there's something called a private distribution, which allows you to publish an app to the marketplace that does not get put into the catalog, but that we give you a sort of a deep link URL or URI that you can use. And then you could then email that to people. The problem with that is there's no access control. And if that URI becomes available to someone even outside of your company, you don't have any control over that. So you should be careful and keep that in mind. Any other questions? Okay, let's talk about. Of course you do.
Why you have paid so you're allowed to submit it?
Sorry?
If I submit an app now,
Yes.
pay for the register, and then next year I don't want to pay anymore, will my app stay on the market?
Okay, so the question is, I submit an app, and it's a paid app, I guess. Is that what you're saying? A free app. So the apps that get submitted to the marketplace do remain in the marketplace, but if you haven't paid your fee, then you won't get paid. And you also will have considered those apps. I think those apps get considered abandoned, and so it would be hard for you. It would be hard for you even to update those apps. So if you let your app marketplace account lapse, then it becomes hard for you to maintain your apps.
But you can keep a free app on the market after.
I believe so. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Is it
Yes.
possible to have a period where you, let's say, you have a period where you no longer pay, and then you come back in, you say, okay, I'm back in the game now.
Yeah. So the question was, yeah. So and that's what I said. So if you let your account lapse, there is no way for you to re-up with the same account to the same and get access to the same accounts, to the same apps. Any other questions? These are all great questions, by the way. Yes? I'm sorry, I can just barely hear you. I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're... Oh, what's the percentage of Danish developers? I don't have that number. I don't know. Is Martin here? Martin Nessman, are you here? Wilfried, do you know how many Danish developers? We don't have those numbers. We don't share those numbers. Okay, sorry. I would tell you. Really, if it was me, I would tell you. But Wilfried says no. Anybody else? Okay, let's keep going. So I think we talked about this stuff. So payment is done by bank transfer. I think I said check earlier. There is no check. It's done by bank transfer. It's all electronic transfer. Payment comes from the US, and so on. And so there's good support on developer side and so on. Free and paid apps, I think we talked about this. Lots of questions around this. Developer limited in the number of free apps. And here it does say free apps, but that's wrong. It should say free submissions of apps. And every time you go over that 100, then every time you do another submission, it's $20 per app. For the vast majority of developers, this is not a problem, right? I mean, that means you're submitting 2 apps per week, every week, including Christmas and New Year and Easter and vacation. That's just a lot of apps. On the other hand, there are a lot of companies that are submitting apps that are perhaps of lower value, and so we're trying to limit that. Okay? Yeah, and so you can submit as many paid apps as you like. So applications can be free or paid. You can also submit applications that are paid that have a trial mode or a try before you buy mode. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I strongly suggest that if you have a paid app, that you think about what limited functionality you can have as a trial app. because we know, just from the statistics, we know that apps that are paid that have a trial are about 7 times more likely to get downloaded than apps that are paid that don't have a trial. And then apps that are paid that have a trial, of those 7 times more, about 10% of those are conversions. So it's a fairly high conversion level, and it's just something that, from a business perspective, it just makes a lot of sense to use trial. And of course, you want to be careful that you don't give people too much for free, and you want to be careful you don't give them enough that they can't actually evaluate your application. Most people want to pay you for your app if they see value. And so, even 99 cents for some people, if there's no trial, I'm not going to try it unless there's a trial. Yes?
Before you move too far ahead, you mentioned that every time you roll over to $200, you get a bank transfer. Is that a limit that can be configured or anything? Because usually with international transfers, you pay a fee for every transfer, which can amount to quite a bit if you get a lot of small transfers like that.
So the question was, you would want to raise it above?
Let's say you have an app that does really well. You don't want to have like 30, really fast 200 transfers that you pay like, $5 for each.
Right.
Transfer.
So the question was related to payment of fees to receive bank transfers. And so as a result of that, you'd want to limit the number of transfers and not get paid certain months.
Get a bigger amount
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah. My understanding is that that's not, that there's a process in place that just runs, and if once you hit the 200 mark, that triggers a transfer. Any other questions? Yes, lots of questions.
Every time you reach 200, or is it once a month if you've reached 200?
It's once a month if you've reached 200. So once a month if you hit 10,000, God willing, then you'll get that one bank transfer of 10,000.
Okay, that answers my question better.
Okay. Yeah, it's not every 200. We're not sending you $200 every 3 hours, right? So I mentioned trial. Trial is actually really easy to do. It's part of the platform. Every application can do it. It's part of the license info that we install as part of packaging up your application and putting it in the marketplace. And so you can check the license info. When someone downloads a trial application, they have different license info than when they purchase the application. And you can check within your application whether your application is running in trial mode or whether it's running in fully paid mode. And it's as simple as is trial, right? And then is trial means you're running in trial, and then you might want to limit to, if it's a game, maybe you only give people access to the first 2 levels or something like that. Or if it's an application, you might want to limit the number of features that you make available. I would suggest you not use time-based. Some people say, oh, after 5 days, I'm not going to run, because an application, once you uninstall it on the phone, is completely uninstalled. And that means someone could go back to the marketplace and reinstall it and get full access, right? So be careful of that. So that would give people full access. Some people will go to great lengths not to pay you that 99 cents. So anyway, so let's talk about marketplace submission. So when you submit your application for validation, the system first performs a whole slew of automated tests. So that allows you to get a quick review telling you if you are missing certain things like screenshots or what have you. Lots of very simple things get tested right away, so you get a quick answer. And then once that's done, then there is manual testing that happens related to that. And that's what takes a little bit longer. Yes? So the question is, can the application be only in the Danish language? And of course. How will we test it? So if we support a marketplace, we'll test in that. Now you realize I'm not the one doing the testing, right? Yes, so we'll have people that would test in Danish or Italian or German or what have you, as you can expect, or Chinese or Japanese. Yeah. I only do a couple of apps every night, so I just can't do all of it. So, Yeah, so doing things like disallowed libraries, or you're doing things that just aren't allowed as part of, there's some things that we can test very quickly and give you a quick answer on, and then there's some things that we can't test that obviously we have to do manually. And so we have a whole team of people, a very large team of people that are doing testing. Yeah, so things like testing for dormant versus tombstone behavior, like we talked about earlier. That's not something that we can test automatically. That's something that someone actually runs your application and forces it to go into tombstone and then runs it again to see that it recovers properly. And so it's not an inconsequential validation. Testing process can take a few days. Like I said, I think our SLA is about 5 days, so you can expect on the outside that it would take 5 days. On average, it's 2 or 3, and it depends on the time of year and how many apps are in the queue and if there's vacation time and all that stuff, but on average, it's 2 or 3 days. If an application is submitted for a retest, in most cases, we'll not test the things that we already tested the first time. We'll focus on the areas where you failed. Yeah, of course, the automated tests, you can't avoid them. They just automatically run as soon as you submit, and you get a quick... Yeah, you can't sneak in on managed code. Yeah, no native code. Yeah, nice try though. Yeah, good luck with that. There is in Visual Studio, as part of Windows Phone 7.5, the newest SDK, I guess 7.1 SDK, we now have the Marketplace Test Kit, and so you can actually run some of the same tests, not all of them, but some of the same automated tests that we run on your code, you can actually run on your code as well, so that you can get a much faster turnaround. It's just, you go into the project menu, open the Marketplace Test Kit, you actually enter all sorts of information, the same information that you would enter in App Hub, and then it runs a test and gives you a quick answer, and hopefully gives you the ability to go through your first submission much faster without hitting some of the simpler issues. Yeah, and so Test Kit does all sorts of aspects of the application. So it's things like required assets. Do I have my icon? Do I have my splash screen? Do I have the right set of, do I have screenshots? All of that good stuff. We've been talking, I think we've mentioned this a couple of times. There is the ability to do private beta testing. So if you have an application, it's not ready for submission, but you want to give it to some users. The way it works is you can have up to 100 users. You need to know their live ID because that's how they get access. So you submit your application into the marketplace. It's the same process that you submit for publication, but you submit and you tell us, oh, this is just for beta. It does not go through certification. It goes immediately into the marketplace. It takes about 24 hours. And then you get a link that you can send to beta testers. And those beta testers can then download the app, assuming their live ID has been entered into the beta testing application. And then you have 90 days. After 90 days, that expires. And then hopefully you have made some changes and maybe even published within 90 days. Yes? Yeah, right now, so the question was, can you update the beta in those 90 days? You cannot. You can submit a different beta and then get a new ID. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Some people were asking about the advertising SDK. We do have an advertising SDK, and so adding advertising is really handy. It says here games, but you can actually do advertising in games or applications. Strongly encouraged, and this is part of the Microsoft Pub Center. And there's just a very simple control that you add in. It's actually installed as part of the Windows Phone SDK, and you can just add it in either in Silverlight or in XNA, and we'll support both. Yes?
When will it be available for Danish developers?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I think it's supposed to be done before the end of the year. Do you know, Wilfried? Yeah, we're supposed to. There was supposed to be a first wave, which we did as part of the Windows Phone launch, and then I think there's more coming, so stay tuned. Yeah, coming soon. Yeah, so, and again, you get 70% of the revenue. It's the same sort of model. And one of the things we have found is that our revenue from advertising is actually quite good, much better than you would get from Google or Apple's. So certainly encourage you to investigate and try it. Sorry, was there a question? Yeah, no, money's good. Yeah, we like money. We want to pay you. We want you to be successful. To sign up for Pub Center, it's pubcenter.microsoft.com, and you sign up, and that's where you, similar to signing up for App Hub, it is free. Is there a question? No? And advertising.microsoft.com is where there's a lot more information about that stuff there. I mentioned this already. The advertising SDK is already part of the Windows Phone SDK. There's a Silverlight ad control, and there's also an XNA drawable ad, which you can include in games. Very, very easy to do. There are samples out there that you can take advantage of. Any questions? Yes?
There's something that if you submit the app to the international market, you need to information in America.
Say that again.
If you're Danish and want to submit apps, paid apps in the US, for example, then there's some rules about tax. You need to sign some documents. Is it the same? Only submitted in Denmark.
It is the same because all of the applications are paid from the US, so you still have to submit that. We've actually streamlined that process substantially. So I think you may find, Wilfried, do you know if that's happened in Denmark yet? It has. So I think you'll find that it's actually much easier than it was maybe even 2 months ago.
You still have to get an IT from IRS.
I don't think you do, actually. You no longer have to get an ITIN. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, at least.
And it's the same with the apps. You also get paid the same way as your phone.
You get paid the same.
If you have ads,
Yeah, ads is the same way. Yeah, you get paid through the US. Yeah, yeah.
can you put ads for other, like Google ads, as your apps? Is that allowed?
Yeah, sure. So the question was, can I have ads from Google or AdMob, or there's 5 or 6 different ad networks that you can subscribe to. I can tell you, you'll probably make more money with the Pub Center one, just from past experience. Possibly not yet. Yes, yeah, yeah. When it's available, you'll be making more money through Pub Center. I think there was a question in the back. Yes, there you are. Yeah, I think yeah. So the question was, if I submitted my papers 5 months ago and didn't get an answer, you should probably look again. And Wilfried over in the corner wants you to talk to him directly, and he's going to help you out. So, yes?
If you submit an ad as free, can you then later add ads or ads it's a trial and you need to pay for the Google?
So the question was, if I submit an app for free, can I then change it to be an ad-supported app, or even change it to be a paid app? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. You have full control over what you do with your app. Yes? You consider this is something that's happening to you? Is that, are you getting close to the date? Is that what it is? Yeah, it's $200 is $200. It's not $199. It's not $198. It's $200. So yeah, it's pretty basic math. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes. So the question is, do we support in-app purchase or in-app subscription? We don't provide any mechanism for you to do either of those. If you have a mechanism that you're already using, for regular applications, we do allow you to do that. So for instance, if you're using PayPal or Facebook credits or whatever to do in-app purchase, we would allow that, except in the category of games. If you're doing games, we don't allow in-app purchase.
And you don't support subscription from like when you buy the app?
Correct. So the question was, do we support subscription payment? And we do not. The payment right now is a one-time payment. And before anyone asks, there is no possibility for doing update payment, right? So when you submit an update, all the users that have your application will get that update for free. If you want to have your update paid, you would have to submit a new application, but then of course you wouldn't get your existing users. So anyway, and then you have two code bases, so not a good idea. Yes?
Then I ask once again, if I submit a free app, and then later finds out that a lot of people likes it, and I add some more functionality, and I want money for that more functionality, and the things that was in the original would still be there as trial. Does that mean that all the people that download the app as free will have all the new functionality also?
So let me repeat the question, so because it's an important one. So I have submitted an app to the marketplace and it's free. And now I've decided that it's such a popular app that I want to spend more time and maybe add some features and now make it a paid app. When I submit an update, the people that got it for free will get the update for free. Anybody who buys it after you submit the update would be paying you for that. So, I mean, we'll talk about some of the stuff in maximizing uptake. In general, I would suggest that you start high in terms of pricing your applications and work down. Most people tend to undervalue the value of their applications. And so I would suggest you look very closely at getting paid the value that your application provides. It doesn't mean that not every application should start at 99 cents or free. I think I saw a question here. No? Did I answer it? I answered it. Okay. Any other questions? No? Let's keep going. I wasn't really expecting so many questions for this. So there are a lot of applications in the marketplace, but there's still plenty of scope for making money. And this is sort of related to what I was talking about. You shouldn't undervalue yourself. So let's talk about some of these things. You should design your application to sell. So this is kind of an obvious one, but take advantage and make your application look professional. Things like icons and graphics and all of that stuff. If you add graphics that are clean and professional looking, that adds value to your application and is more likely to someone is going to be willing to pay for that application because it will give them a feeling of quality. Take advantage of the iconography and the design throughout the application. Don't make it a last-minute thing, right? Many developers are coding, prototyping all the way along, and then the last 3 days they spend time trying to figure out how to do the graphics. The graphics really should be part of the entire development process. It's something that you should be thinking out throughout because it is actually an important part of the user experience. And certainly that's one of the things that we're seeing anecdotally. People are willing to pay more for a better user experience. Include a free trial mode. I actually gave away this one already. It's an incredibly easy thing to do. And by the way, we're the only platform that does this right now. You don't have to pay us to do trial mode, but what we do see is that people or developers that add trial mode to their apps get a lot more downloads, 7 times more downloads, and they convert those downloads to paid. And so it makes great business sense for you to include trial mode. Be careful that you don't give away too much for free, but trial mode is an important way. And then the other thing that you should do if you have a trial mode or if you have a free app with a paid app, upsell between the two, right? So if you can detect that the end user is in a trial mode, offer to send them to the marketplace to pay for your app, right? Don't just expect them to go and find your app again in the marketplace. There should be somewhere in your app that says, click here to buy. And in fact, many developers will do something similar to, once the app has been run 10 times, they'll pop a dialog that says, hey, you've run the app 10 times, would you like to pay for it now? Once it's been run for 5 days, offer to send them to the marketplace to actually pay for the app. Again, most people, if they get value from your application, are more than willing to pay you for it. Yes?
How would you do that? If you would need the link to the marketplace, but you first get that when you submit your app. So how could I code my
So the question is, how do I do that? Because I don't know what the GUID to my app is to create the URL to send them to the marketplace. There's actually an API to send people to the marketplace. You don't need the GUID. If you send people to the marketplace without a GUID, it will send them to your app, to the app that they're currently running. Yeah, very easy to do. It's one line of code. The other thing related to that is ask them to rate your app. Apps that have more ratings, especially higher ratings, of course, tend to get valued more, right? And so people get a sense that, oh, look, there's 100 people that rated this app and it's rated 4 stars. It's worth $1.99 or $2.49 or whatever it is. So again, make sure that in your app, you ask people to give you a rating. And so again, it's just a way of encouraging more people to give you feedback, and at the same time helps you sell more apps. Upgrades. So what I've seen a lot of developers try to do is they try to put everything into version 1. And my suggestion to you is that you cut your feature list and release many upgrades with adding a lot of new features over time. That's something that you'll find will increase the number of users, and it will also keep you in the top ranked lists, because every time you release a new upgrade, you get more people looking at it, you get more people talking about it, gets downloaded more, so it's a good thing. It also means you get to market more quickly and means people are paying you faster. So I know, like I said, I'm kind of the same way. Developers, you have an idea for an app, you want everything to be in version 1. My suggestion is don't do that. Cut your feature scope down and get the app out quickly. But again, make sure that there's enough value that consumers are willing to pay for it. And this is the other thing, is that a very high percentage of sales of an application are within the first few weeks of the release. And so you start up really high and then you dip down. And so the idea is to dip down and then you release an upgrade and you come down again, right? So it's a good idea. Change categories. Sometimes you release an app, you can't figure out which category. There's no rule that says once you submit to a category, you have to stay in that category. It's very easy for you to go into Marketplace, change a category, and see what happens, right? And just submit the app and see what happens to sales, right? So monitor your sales for 2 weeks and say, oh, look, in this category, I got 200 downloads. Let me change it to the family category and now see how many downloads I have there. And then obviously do that. You can do the same thing with pricing also. Yes?
Is that a submission?
The question is that a submission? No, there you're just changing metadata. So it's not really a submission. We don't have to do any certification on changing your metadata. Yeah, I guess technically it is a submission, but I don't think it counts as a free submission there. Yeah.
And also if it's a paid app, then you can submit as many times.
Yeah, if it's a paid app, you can submit as many times as you want. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yes?
You get to choose which region you want to submit to.
So the question is, how do you get to choose which region you submit to? It's a checkbox as part of the submission process.
Extra to post to more regions?
So the question is it extra to post to multiple regions? And it isn't. So my suggestion is, if you can, submit to as many regions as possible. So if you have an app that's in English, for instance, English is spoken in many different countries, and so it makes sense to submit to many different countries. It's also actually fairly easy to do localization of apps in Silverlight, and so I would strongly suggest that you look at doing some localization. It's actually, like I said, it's pretty straightforward, easy to do. It depends on the complexity of your app, but clearly if you have an app that, if you're in Denmark, you're more likely as a consumer to want to buy an app in Danish, right? So as a developer that's in the United States, if I want to sell to Denmark, I can submit my app in English, but I'm probably going to get a lot more sales if I actually localize it into Danish. Right? And the same thing obviously goes from Denmark to Sweden or Norway or whatever. Yes?
Related to a question before about if you update your application, if you make different iterations, how are the ratings related to it?
So the question is, if I submit an application and I do many different updates, what happens to my ratings? And those ratings still carry along with your application. So if you have an application version 1 that had poor ratings, then you will still have poor ratings when you release version 1.1 or 2.0. So yeah. Any other questions? Lots of great questions, by the way. I had no idea that we'd get this many questions. I thought we'd be done about 20 minutes ago. You don't want to go, right?
If you submit a paid app but haven't cleared the tax stuff yet, what will happen?
So the question is, if you submit a paid app, but I haven't cleared the tax stuff yet, or let me add to that, I haven't included my bank information or my transfer information, what happens? You won't get paid. We will keep the money until you've cleared all the tax information, and then we'll pay you, right? It's not we're going to keep it forever.
So in theory, I could submit a paid app, and if it never sells any, then I could drop registering for tax and that stuff, and say, okay, just didn't give me any money. Or if a lot of people buys it, then I can say, okay, now I want to do the tax verification to get my money.
Okay, I'm not even going to try and repeat that. But yeah, sounds right. Any other questions? Okay, let's keep going. Did we finish this one? Yeah, so again, move categories, standard marketing, right? You're doing A/B testing. Just test in different countries, test in different categories, test different pricing, and see what it does, right? And again, don't start at 99 cents. It's hard to move down from 99 cents. It's easier to move down from $2.99 or $1.99 or $2.49. So yes? You can move down from 99 cents to free. You cannot move to 1 cent. No, there is no 1 cent. It's really hard to get people to pay a credit card for 1 cent. It's a lot of Visa bills. And then you use the marketplace, App Hub, create.msdn.com. That's where you go to see your statistics and see your downloads, and that's where you would track how you're doing. So if you're doing A/B testing, like changing categories and stuff, this is where you would go to do that. I talked about this earlier. Encourage good feedback. Good feedback is a strong motivator to other consumers to buy your app. And so make sure that within your application that you encourage your end users to provide feedback. Bad feedback is better than no feedback. So encourage them to provide feedback. The other thing is encourage them to report problems in feedback. And we also do track crashes now. And you have access to those crashes from within the marketplace. So you can see crash reports and all of that stuff. There are also other sorts of third-party APIs or code that you can use to actually track that stuff and ask end users to email you problems if they're having problems. Again, it's related to you building a relationship with your consumers. We encourage you to include a feedback link in your app. Feedback to the marketplace, but also perhaps an email link where they can email you and say, hey, when I do such and such and such, I'm hitting an issue. Or wouldn't it be great if your app also did this? It builds a relationship with the customers and is more likely for those customers, especially if they're in trial mode and they see that you're responsive, they're more likely to actually pay you because they see value and they see that you're actually responsive and want to help them. Yes?
Are you allowed to send crash test reports back to yourself?
So the question is, are you allowed to send crash test reports back to yourself?
Say like catching a unhandled exception and such.
The way I would handle it, there is Andy Pinnell, one of the Microsoft guys, actually has some code to do that. And I would strongly suggest that you tell your end users what you're doing and allow them the option to send you crash reports. And there is some free code. I can send you the code for that. It's very easy to do. It's like maybe 25 lines of code that detects a crash. And the next time that the app starts again, it will pop up a message to the end user that says, oh, looks like you may have crashed last time you run this app. Would you mind if I sent the crash report to the developer so they can try and fix that for the next time? Most people will say yes. And then once you say yes, it actually opens up an email so they can actually see what they're about to send and hit the send button. Most people, if they feel like you're doing the right thing, will do the right thing. If you're doing it behind the scenes, privately, if you get caught, that's just not good, right? Privacy issues and what is he sending, and it's not good. So again, optimized for the end user experience. Any other questions? Lots of great questions. This is awesome. So I think we're actually going to end here. Marketplace applications are solely distributed from the Windows Phone marketplace. There is no other marketplace. As I said, developers can sideload, but for consumers, that's really the marketplace. Apps can be free or paid. You get about 70%. They're distributed as a single file that contains a manifest and capabilities and everything that's required. So all of that stuff is all stuff that's taken care of for you as part of the developer tools and the marketplace stuff. Actually, are we over time, Wilfried? Do you know what time we're supposed to? We're over time, right? So I should stop there. I was actually going to give you a quick tour of the App Hub. If anyone wants to see it, I'll be around for a little while. So I should do it? You think I should? We're supposed to go to 6:15, so I have 10 minutes. Is that okay? Okay, let's keep going. Oh, unfortunately, we have a question. You're the one who's holding us up right now. So the question is, how do I get my application to be in the top applications? And actually the answer that the gentleman said, make it a great app, is probably the best way to do it.
What about featured?
So the question is how to get featured. There is a very high bar for apps to get featured. And there's some of the things that we talked about here. Apps that get rated very highly. We have a team, it's actually a team in Silicon Valley that reviews. They're constantly reviewing different apps to see what apps get featured. It's not something you can pay us to do. Again, we're optimizing for the end user experience, and so we want your apps to get featured. And so there's a certain amount of inventory, if you want to call it that, space for apps to get featured. Those apps tend to be really great apps. So the best way to get featured, build a great app, get high rankings, high ratings, and get lots of downloads. That's going to catch the attention of the marketplace team because they're constantly doing analytics on that.
What will you actually do when you find an app and you think that should be featured? I noticed that they have like big panorama photos and stuff like that. So will you go back to the developer and say, hey, please give us some graphics that you put on?
So the question is, well, how does that work? If I get featured, there's some graphics that are submitted in the panorama and so on. When you're doing your submission, you automatically, it's optional, I suggest you do it, you automatically submit a panorama artwork that can be used as part of getting featured. Doesn't cost you much, it's just graphics. You submit an image and it's there. So the featured, it varies from marketplace to marketplace, and it varies what we feature on which day and which part of the marketplace. But I think 2 days we feature songs, 2 days we feature games, and then I think the other 4 days are pretty much open for the marketplace featuring team to feature other stuff. And it varies from marketplace to marketplace, right? So the Danish market would have a featured app, and the US market would have featured app, and UK market, and so on and so forth. Any other questions? Now we have 7.
Very important to add that without that graphics, you will not get featured.
That's correct. So the important thing to add there is if you do not have that featured graphics, it's less likely that you will get featured. It's possible that if we see a great app, we may contact the developer and ask them to give us featured graphics. But it's very less likely. Yeah. You guys want to see the App Hub? So this is my dashboard. So I ask that you don't laugh at my numbers because they're very low. So this is App Hub. Can anyone see what the URL is in the top left-hand corner? Can anyone guess what it might be? Create.msdn.com, right? So pretty much everything that you do starts here. As a developer, this is the place where you start everything, no matter what I'm looking at. So for instance, we talked about certification requirements. There's the link right there. Click on that. It'll take you into the MSDN site where there's a 30 pages worth of HTML that you can read through and see all of the certification policies, content policies, technical policies, all of that stuff is itemized there. There's an application submission walkthrough that will actually show you graphic and tell you exactly what the submission process looks like, and tell you what each field in the submission process is required and why we ask you for it. There's a registration walk. She walks you through what you need to enter in order to register. So anyway, so that's kind of it. Now you notice that in the top right-hand corner, it shows Doug Rate. That's the name of the Marketplace app hub that I registered. So I'm actually already signed in, and you can see here that I have a dashboard. There's a Windows Phone dashboard and an Xbox 360 dashboard. So let's have a look at the Windows Phone Marketplace, Windows Phone dashboard. So I have one app that I built. It's kind of a test app that I do all sorts of crazy things with when I'm testing out new features. And I've actually submitted it. And apparently App Hub is down. Oh no, it's working. Wow. I lost internet earlier, so it may have happened again. Yeah, I think I lost internet. Okay, let me just disconnect here and re-enter my password. Okay, I guess the Nokia network may have gone down. Okay. It's not possible? Yeah, so I guess we're not going to see the, the App Hub. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't even get to the login screen anymore. Yeah, I'm going to just retry this. Yeah, I can't get the Nokia network to come back up, so I think we're going to stop there. Thank you very much for spending your day with us. I think we have some activities outside where we have some food and so on, and drinks and so on. So please, thank you very much. If you have questions, I'll be here for a while, and then once we're done here, I'll be outside. So, and as I mentioned earlier, benriga@microsoft.com. If you have any questions tomorrow or the day after when I'm gone, please feel free to email me. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter, @benriga. Did I mention that? Yeah.